You're on, man. You're on. All right, we're live. Day 2 of camp was today. Lester and I got to meet up in the morning and get out of there. Do a little pregame here for you guys that are joining us. If you are joining us live stream, thank you very much. If you can hit subscribe if you aren't already, that would be fantastic. If you have any questions on our experience today, hit us up in the comments. We'll get to those after we record the show. We'll get to that here in a little bit, but yeah, man, what'd you think overall?
Man, it was fun. I mean, the first thing I noticed was just the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Much different than a season ago. Part of last year's stuff was the 1 year after the COVID, so that had something to do with it. Plus the ticket structure, the way they did it last year, I think they learned a little something. And this year it was nice, a nice crowd. It's what you want to see.
It's packed.
Yeah,
I mean, both all three bleachers that normal fans like us can access were full. The ropes were lined up with people, and I would say at some points there were 2-3 rows deep.
Yeah.
And then they have a really big bleacher section for friends and family. I don't think that they need the big bleacher section for friends and family. I mean, it's nice that they get their own little section, but I think you could maybe reallocate that a little bit. Media has a little section. I don't think a lot of the media guys use that. I think they did today because the practice was on that side, but a lot of them will bounce around a little bit. Did we get any confirmation that Zach Miller was there?
I didn't see anything. I got home from camp. I know we had a nice lunch. We got back, and I was busy trying to share stuff on social, so I haven't had a chance to dive too much into the actual Bears news. But it did look like Zach Miller.
Yeah, I mean, from a distance, certainly had like the haircut and stuff. And you had mentioned something about, do you listen to his music? And I say, oh God, no! Like, it's country music.
Stop
but
it! That's Zach Miller.
Is it good? Like, is anybody listening to him? Is it good music?
I'm not a country fan myself,
okay.
but I did pop it on. I saw it on social. I listened to it. It's country. I mean, if you like country, you'll like Zach Miller. If you're not a fan of country, probably not. It looks like EJ Snyder says it was Zach Miller there at camp, so that's cool. I like this regime embracing the past.
Yeah,
guys hanging out. I mean, it's just good to be around these guys.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think also, like you said, there's more people, which I think helps with the atmosphere. I also just think that the tone and tenor around the team, even though the expectations are probably lower from a win-loss total, but just that renewed, refreshed feeling of a new administration. Obviously the Justin Fields movement here is pretty strong, but it just feels like the fans are in a better place mentally than they were last year. It just felt so defeated last year.
Yeah, it's like we talked about last night a little bit. It's a different vibe because we know that the Bears may not be a playoff team, but we also know that Justin Fields is the guy. So that helps us from a fan perspective. It's cool to see that. And, I think that's all we can ask for is we want our team to have the guy. If we have the guy, who knows what can happen.
Right. Yeah, it's that is the position that can lift up a franchise in need of a savior. And believe me, this franchise needs that savior right now. Yep. So much more diversity in jerseys today.
It was.
Yesterday was just number one as far as the eye could see. Today, I don't know if it's just because a lot more people were like, it's Friday, I'm going to take Friday off and make it a 3-day weekend, go see the Bears. But you saw a lot of diversity in, I saw a Sayers jersey. I saw a Ditka jersey. We saw a family of Herberts.
We did, yeah.
So they had a Herbert 24 with everybody involved. And I asked them, it's like, that's our last name. It's like, okay, got it. But they were very excited about having their last name on the team. And I saw a Hester. I saw a few Urlachers. Always see Peytons. Every practice you're going to see some
Mongo.
Peytons.
I saw Mongo today.
Yep, Mongo. Somebody had an Urlacher New Mexico jersey.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. I don't think I've ever seen that out in the wild. So that was fun to see. Jersey spotting is one of my favorite pastimes. So an event like this is great. I was waiting for you to get to the parking lot for the buses, and this guy walks by. He's just going for a walk, morning walk, or whatever. And he comes up to me and he says, "Hey, what's going on?" And I said, "Bears training camp. We're just shuttling over." "Oh, where do the Bears practice?" I was like, "Oh, just across the way. It's pretty short walk." He goes, "Oh, I'm from Detroit." And I go, oh, yeah, you guys don't have a football team. You wouldn't understand any of this. And he goes, oh, all right. Yeah. Okay, I got it. It was just the way that he was just like, huh? What is this? What are all these Bears? What are all these Bears jerseys doing here?
Just a guy from Detroit vacationing in lovely Vernon Hills, Illinois. It's
Going for a walk in the mall parking lot and seeing what's going on.
Yeah. That's actually Hawthorne Mall for the people that are local. It's at some point they changed their name, kind of like the Sears Tower became the Willis Tower. Some point Hawthorne Mall changed into something else. I can't remember what it was, but I think it's back to Hawthorne Mall again. Just very strange.
And no one called it what it was.
Yes, it's Hawthorne.
So
That's what it's. Yeah, it's always. Gotcha. I don't know. It's what it always. It's weird.
I think you can tell how long somebody's been in an area by what they call something like that, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, you want to record a podcast?
Yeah, let's get this going here.
All right. Welcome to Bear and Balance. I'm Jeff Berckes, a writer for Windy City Gridiron, and I'm joined by the editor of that fine site, Lester A. Wiltfong Jr. Lester, got to see you in person today. We got to attend day 2 of camp, got a little sun, took in a little Justin Fields. How are you feeling about your experience at camp?
It was fun. We kind of talked a little bit on the pre-show here, but the atmosphere was cool. Last year was a bit, seemed like there wasn't quite as many fans. This year, though, it was deep. I mean, the bleachers were packed. There was people all around, as much as they do let in. I mean, there still wasn't, like Bourbonnais days, but it was still a good atmosphere, good crowd. And it was fun because there was some kids really wanted Justin Fields autographed before, I don't think he's going to come over here in the middle of practice, guy, but he was fired up, man. They were fired up.
I mean, I kind of want to be like, all right, where's your adult to tell you to maybe like cut it out? But there were 3 kids. We were at the top corner of a bleacher on the end zone, and then right below us there were 3 kids that were yelling, Justin Fields, and then they got like angrier and angrier.
It sounded
about
mad. Yeah.
They started to get like, you need to come over here and give me an autograph. And so I yelled down like, hey, they're practicing. He's not going to do that now. After practice, stand on the line like everybody else. Yeah. But Justin did acknowledge them.
Yeah, he did. He
kind of waved like, and then they just kind of kept escalating. I was like, kid, like let's cut it out. I'm not going to listen to you yell for 2 hours for Justin.
Let's just shut down practice. We'll let these guys give some autographs. So we'll get back to it. I don't think Coach Flus would have been okay with that. He only has his 2-hour time here, so he has to get everything in the 2 hours.
And it does really speak to that Justin Fields entering that star level status with the fans, though. There really is a fervor around him. So yes. That was pretty funny. So we got there, staked out a corner of the bleachers, and we had a really nice viewpoint of a lot of the offensive line stuff. And then we got to see a lot. The 7-on-7 and the team drills were all right in front of us. So we had optimal time seating for that. The pictures that I was able to take and share, some of them have a pole right in the middle of it. Some of them, the field goal post is blocking.
Crossbar, yeah,
is what it is, But we did manage to have really good view and got to see, I think, a sharper Justin Fields today. We'll get into that in a little bit, and some fun stuff for us to talk about, for us to see as this team continues to shape itself. I think there were some notable things that happened today. So why don't we get into that? Why don't we always start with the offensive line. Yep. So let's start there, in our trench tribute category. So I think that the major thing that happened here that we need to talk about was, first of all, Lucas Patrick, injured. He's out. Looks like he may require surgery. Don't know the timetable. I don't know if you saw a timetable yet or anything like that.
I think it might have been Brad Biggs tweeted something about since it's happening, when it's happening, there is some hope that he could get the surgery done, taken care of, and be back by the regular season. So again, at this point, it's all speculation. Once they go in there, see what it is, they'll know how bad it is. But, if it's not his snapping hand, club it up, man. Let's go.
Club it up. Let's do it. Yeah. So I think again, it's one practice, but Doug Kramer was taking the reps with the ones, and then they slid Mustafa over from guard to be the second string center for the practice. Ja'Tyre Carter got the first team snaps at right guard, and then at left guard was Zach Thomas, because Cody Whitehair took a vet's day. So he came out with a hat on, and I was like, oh, looks like Whitehair's got a vet day. And then it was Riley Reif taking first team reps at left tackle. And then right tackle was still Larry Borum.
Yep. I do want to mention that before practice, they kind of come out there and get loose. Cody Whitehair and Zach Thomas spent a lot of time together. He was really, you always hear about how the veterans kind of take the young guys under their wing, kind of, teach them the way. And we saw it. I mean, we saw it firsthand. I mean, they had a bag. They went over on the side. They did a lot of work together. It was Zach Thomas, Cody Whitehair, just kind of going through the motions, kind of, going through some blocking techniques. And, for me, that's the kind of stuff I like to see when I go to camp. I mean, the plays are cool. It's fun, but seeing those little things that you don't really hear about that too often. But man, here's Cody Whitehair, one of the few vets on this team, embracing that role and teaching the young guys the way.
Yeah, it looked like the offensive line room did look like it was getting along pretty well. You saw a little bit
Close-knit
of that
group.
from other players too, right? I mean, I saw a little interaction there with Schofield, who seems very excited to be a Chicago Bear, as he should be from
Chicago
the area.
guy, yeah.
He was playing with the second team still, but I'd imagine there'd be more mixing in there. Obviously, Tevin Jenkins wasn't there. I think we don't know. I mean, we're at practice. They're not coming around and telling us exactly why every player is not on the field, but he's not there. So there's, again, some speculation on what that might be. Might be illness, might be injury. I don't know if we know any more than that at this point. But his absence was notable.
The only thing they said, I believe, at the presser was he woke up the other day, which is what we heard yesterday. Same thing. He woke up, something wasn't right, and they're taking care of it. So, they said something about he's with the trainers. That could be anything. That could be, there's no point in speculating. It could be anything. It could be anything from an injury to an illness. Who knows? Unless they come out and, put him back on the pup or something weird like that happens and it's another back surgery. If something like that happens, then it's panic time. But for now, let's all take a breath. Let's see how this plays out. If he's missing a long term, then it's an issue. But right now, it's nothing until it's something, I guess.
Well, and again, I think that Reef was signed to be the left tackle. I don't think
Yeah.
that there's much, debate there. But
No.
if we get to practice tomorrow and Reef's taking first team snaps, I think we can just call it okay. Like, that's what it is now. That the first day of practice, he was still running behind a little bit, but you knew that he was going to take over there quick, and I think that's best for Braxton Jones too. So nothing wrong with that. Anything else on in the defensive side? Anything? I mean, it's tough to tell without pads on, all that. But anything bounce out to you in the trenches on the defense?
There was at one point in practice a big uproar because the like you said, we were right in front of the O line. D line was in the other field, and I tweeted out, something happened over there. They're really excited, and apparently Lakel London broke the blocking sled, which has got everyone fired up. But then someone else tweeted at me later that it was Charles Snowden. So someone broke the blocking sled on the defensive side of the ball. So that's good to see.
It is, and that's something that defensive guys would get very excited about.
Yeah.
Feel like if offensive linemen broke it, they would be like, "Oh,
we got
sorry,
fix
coach.
Yeah.
We'll fix it. I'll make it up to you, right? Just different mentality.
Let's get the bolt back in there.
Yeah, I can fix it, guys. I can fix it. So again, it's tough to tell anything much in the trenches without pads on, but you can get a little bit of sense of who's cycling in and out at those positions. And it's just interesting to see, it's a vet day off for Cody Whitehair. So there's nothing wrong with him or anything like that. He's just taking a day. He looked like he was really enjoying himself, right? Like he was taking the shotgun snaps on some of the O-line stuff. And it looked like he was having a lot of fun, but it's interesting to see okay, what is their thinking if Cody Whitehair were to miss some time? Right. What would that be? What would that look like? Okay. It looks like Zach Thomas right now is the guy that they see that as, or, hey, Lucas Patrick, he is missing time. What does that look like? Is it Sam Mustipher sliding over to take the first team reps, or they give a chance to Doug Kramer? And that, so far it looks like Doug Kramer. So just kind of interesting to see what happens when you have those opportunities open up.
It was really cool to see all three rookies on the interior. I mean, if you watch their tape, obviously they're rookies, but with a guy like Tazir Carter played at a HBCU, I think it was Southern, real raw on film, but so much potential. And the fact that the Bears decided, hey, we got some guys out here, let's have Mustipher step back, be the backup center, and with Carter, you know what, you're going to start today at right guard. I think that's nice. That's a nice thing for the rookie. I mean, those little things like that can really help a young guy's confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was good to see. Another thing that was good to see was Justin Fields looked pretty sharp today. There's a couple interceptions that we can talk about, but the 7-on-7 drill, I tracked that yesterday. He was 5 out of 10 on the 7-on-7 drill, which for a 7-on-7 drill, that's not great. Today he was a perfect 10 for 10. Most of the stuff was underneath. It wasn't anything long. There wasn't like high degree of difficulty throws, but he progressed pretty quickly. He wasn't like trying to sit there, stand there and take a long time to deliver the ball. But in team drills, he looked pretty good. He did throw one ball that was tipped. I thought it was tipped by Mooney. Biggs reported it was tipped by Pringle. It was tipped by a Bear receiver, and it went into Kyler Gordon's hands for an interception. And then he threw a ball a little bit behind Cole Kmet, and Jaquan Brisker made an excellent play on it and had an interception. So the rookies both got interceptions off of Fields today.
Yeah, but like you said, overall Fields, he was sharp most of the day. It was fun because like you mentioned, we were right there in front of the team portion of the practice. Seeing the Shanahan-esque style offense was kind of cool to see. The bootlegs, it's not live, but they're still going through the motions of the play action, so you kind of see that. You see the bootlegs, even on plays where the handoffs were made. I like watching a quarterback, what he does afterwards, because that's all part of the illusion. You have to sell the whole thing. And if a quarterback is not going to sell that fake, after the handoff, that's a problem. The Bears quarterbacks, all three of them look good. Or a lot of times I would just watch him regardless of what happened. And, the handoff was made, but you really couldn't tell by the way they ran through their motion. So it was kind of cool just seeing that. And, I've been talking all offseason how excited I am to see this Luke Getsy offense. So it was cool seeing it up close and personal.
Yeah, and so they're practicing run plays, which again without pads, okay, right? It's tough to really tell. It's like, oh, he had a good hole there. Sure, that might have happened, with pads on, or it might have been a lot different if the defender can react in a different way. But they're using a lot of play action. They're rolling him out, and there was one play that looked like maybe like a read option where he kept it, pretty decisively. So he took off right away. It wasn't like there was a pass off of that. And so there was a lot of variety in the offense and not static routes, right? Like it's something that we really harped on in the last, the last coaching group where it just, everything just felt flat. This at least had a lot of interesting motions. You made an interesting point about even like the formations with the halfback up close and being like a quick hitting run action. There was a jet sweep action, right? So they were playing with a lot more formational stuff than we've been used to in the last few years.
We talked about when we were watching them play, like the years past the jet sweep. It was like, what was the point of it in Nagy's scheme? He rarely gave to the jet sweep guy. When the ball was snapped, there was no illusion of a jet sweep happening. But we've kind of seen, in this variation of this offense, a lot of stuff from Sean McVay. They do the jet sweep a ton. And, the Packers do that as well. I'd like to see some of that come in because that's just it's a quick hitting outside play. The guy's, he's in a dead run, full speed. You turn your hand off. He already has his everything going that direction. It's just a nice quick hitting play, and having the tailback up like that. It's part of that. It's all part of the package. It's all quick hitting stuff. The fakes there, the bootleg comes. So just these little things that we didn't see from Nagy. Like the more I hindsight this whole Nagy regime, the more pissed off I get because there's just so many little stupid things that I'm like, why are they not doing these modern concepts? Just little stuff you don't see, like the fullback today. We saw the use of the fullback. He goes in motion right before the ball snap to get a better angle on his block. Just little things like this. It's like, this is football. This is what you're supposed to be doing. And Matt Nagy wanted to run Matt Nagy offense, not this is our team. Let's run the best thing for the team.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to spend too much time on Nagy,
No, we don't.
But clearly it was a collection of plays that he liked. Where this is a system, this is an offensive scheme. This is something that is really taking over the league in a lot of ways. And obviously, Luke Getsy's going to have his own take on this, his own spin on it. It's not copycat directly from any one coaching staff or anything like that. But if you have the fundamentals that, building that foundation of the offense, and that's really where you're at. You're early in camp, and that's what you're seeing. You're not going to see what the Bears are going to be running in week 12 in second day of open practice of training camp, right? Like it's going to take time to build all that up. And honestly, it'll take time. You'll start seeing things next year and the year after that aren't going to be able to be incorporated this year. That the offense takes time. but you're starting to see the fundamentals of this offense, and it's completely different than what we saw in camp in previous years from the last regime. And it's a much more fundamentally sound offense, and the coaches get after it,
Yeah.
right? Like the coaches are vocal and they are intense. And I find that to be interesting. I know this isn't maybe a Fields report, but I want to bring it up here. I think Eberflus's hit system is coming as advertised. Hustle. Well, saw a lot of examples of getting on guys for the hustle yesterday, and then I'd say the takeaways piece of it was really evident today. A couple of picks, a lot of punching at the ball. You noted how many like peanut punches there were, and they got one. I can't remember exactly who the
Yeah.
back was. Was it Herbert?
Might
Put
have
the ball on
been.
the ground. And then it's everybody, everybody on the side, all the defensive players, ball, and they're on it. They got the recovery. The defensive players are going nuts, right? And anytime a ball hits the ground on an incompletion, they're treating it like a fumble, like they're all rallying
Yep.
to the ball. They're picking it up, and they're running. Like, I mean, it is high energy, go, go, go. A lot of fun to watch.
That mentality is, as Bears fans, from the Lovie Smith era. And of course, Coach Eberflus, his big mentor in the game of football is Rod Marinelli, who, of course, him and Lovie Smith, worked together for a long time. So, you kind of see the philosophies, the hits principle, where it came from. They track the loafs, when the ball's on the ground, whether it's an incomplete pass, whatever it is, the entire defense goes, picks it up. And, to them, it's a loose ball, live ball. They know it's not live, but it's in their brain now. See ball, get ball. And we're seeing it. And like you said, nothing's live. It's when you're playing in helmets, it's just like when the guy has the ball, you just run up to him. You're supposed to, two-hand touch him or just kind of give him a quick little pop and a wrap. Every defender, what they were doing was they were actually taking a shot at the ball. They were wrapping, yes, but with that free hand, they were coming at the ball. You can see that the peanut punch style is being ingrained into the entire defense. And I'm sure that's been taking place the entire offseason. I'm sure they've been hearing it, from day one. It's there. And, you can tell that, I mean, usually you don't hear things, when these kind of practices happen, but you could hear the hits, the slaps, the pops, you hear it, from the stuff. And there was one play kind of late in the game or late in the day where Cole Kmet kind of had it. And, I'm not going to say he lowered his shoulder, but you can kind of tell he really tensed up because he knew the hit was coming, and he delivered a blow because he doesn't want to have that ball knocked out. So, it helps the ball carriers be more cognizant of, the tee and hits is takeaways. For the offensive standpoint is don't have takeaways. They're holding on to that ball tight.
It was noticeable. And I turned to you and I said, I think these guys are ready to hit.
Oh yeah.
And I know that sounds silly, but I think that they have this ramp up period. They can't put pads on yet, but I think you start to tell that these guys are a little frustrated that they can't put a hit on. And in offensive guys too, I think they want to initiate some contact, right? And they want to do some of that stuff. So I start to feel it kind of clicking a little bit. There was a little bit of tension there on one play. Blackson and Blasingame got into it a little bit, little extracurricular. You start to see that as camp wears on because you keep going against the same guy. You get frustrated. You kind of work that out. That's happened in years past. I remember reports of Akeem Hicks, kind of taunting some of the guys on the offense. I mean, eventually, it's all one big team, but offense and defense, after so many reps, you start to get a little chippy. Yeah. And that's why a lot of teams started going to those shared practices so that you could get somebody else so you're not beating up on your own guys all the time. But it'll be interesting to see if we see a little bit of that elevated tomorrow. And then as other people are at camp, to see if that sort of escalates a little bit because these guys are ready to go.
They are. I mean, and you mentioned the intensity and, like my takeaway from the tweets from you and Sam yesterday was, the intensity, the yelling, I wanted to see the coaches yell. I just, I'm an old coach. I play, I like seeing that intense part of it. And I turned to you at one point and I said, what's going on? Where's all the intensity? And as soon as the individuals ended, it's like, as soon as they were going to go to some team stuff, it's like a switch flipped and everyone the yelling came out, let's go. And it's like the coaches staff and, the players, they were all hustling to their spots. And, it was cool. I mean, like you said, you can see it. I mean, the culture's changing in Chicago, and it may not lead to wins, right now, but it's I'm excited to see where this goes.
It was kind of like when we stepped off the bus at Hallis Hall, and there was like 3 people yelling at me right when we got off the bus.
Go this
Someone
way,
was
go
like,
this way.
"Hey, that's a great shirt," and then someone was like, "You need to be doing this," and then this guy, like security guard, just started yelling at me, and like way too many people yelling at me at once. I don't know what to respond to. Thank you. It was a nice shirt.
I generally ignore most people when I'm walking out, just because I'm just But yeah, I did kind of pick up on what's happening. Everyone's fired up.
It was
it's
a
good
lot.
though. It's Coach Flus's philosophy going to the security and
It's
everyone.
the philosophy
They're all
going to the
up.
buses. Yeah, it's great. All right, hey, we'll take a quick break. We'll let somebody pay the bills here for a second. We'll be right back. All right, Lester, we're back. So let's talk about top offensive, top defensive players. So anybody stand out particularly for you on the offensive side of the ball today in day 2 of camp practice?
I'd like to go Cole Kmet again. I think
Okay.
he had a nice practice. I mean, it wasn't the stuff down the seam like we saw yesterday. He was used in the flat a little bit more, but I mentioned that one play towards the end where he kind of bowed up, and it's he added some muscle this offseason, so that's swole Kmet now. So he kind of bowed up, protected the ball, and he was there. So I just I don't know. Like I said yesterday, I'm a little higher on him than most. And he had a nice catch over the middle. He had a couple touchdowns in the flat. I think he's playing pretty good.
Cole Kmet, aka Swole Kmet. That's got to be
Swole
Danny
Kmet.
Meehan's, our friend Danny Meehan's favorite player now that he's Swole Kmet.
It might be, yeah.
Holy moly, that is a great nickname. That's fantastic. We got to put that on a t-shirt. See if we can get that out there. I actually thought about that, and that was my player yesterday. But I'm going to give it Justin Fields. Now, I think Justin Fields a little up and down yesterday. You could say that someone is going to say, well, I mean, how great could he be if he had 2 picks? One bad ball. I'm not worried about the tip. That's going to happen. One bad ball, but overall, I thought he bounced back pretty well. Really sharp in the 7-on-7. Again, overall, I think that he played really well in the teams. I can forgive one bad ball. A lot of good balls there. He took what was there. He wasn't really pressing. There wasn't any like kind of crazy, I'm going to try to fit it in throws. But there were a couple where he found guys over the middle in traffic. Again, they weren't 50 yards down the field or anything like that. But he was finding guys. And then there was a lot of red zone work today. So it's close quarters to begin with. And he was very efficient in the red zone. And he was finding guys in those little areas and able to score touchdowns in the red zone areas, which I was pretty impressed with.
Let's talk about Justin Fields real quick. The bit of the up and down. You mentioned a couple picks early. So we're tweeting about what happens, right? So what happens is the anti-Fields people come out. See, Fields sucks, right? Right away, it's like it's one play in the 3rd day of training camp, but they're there. They're coming out there, and then the flip side, he finishes the day 10 for 10 in the drill. I think he had like 3 straight touchdown passes at one point. See, Fields is great. It's like don't pick a tweet just to kind of support your narrative. Enjoy the ride. I mean, it's practice. It's early. It's it's training camp. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, it's a good point. I think that if you're there and you're trying to take in, it's impossible to take everything in. I mean, even with the 2 of us trying to look at different things, we were still like, hey, who tipped that? Hey, did you see who was at right tackle there? Like, I mean, it's impossible for 2 of us. We had 5 of us. We might be able to cover it. But even then, with individual drills and one-on-ones and stuff, it might not be covered. We do our best. You see what you can. There's a reason why coaches tape practice and then they go back and they watch the practice. We don't get the benefit of that. And we can't take video, or at least we can't share video. We're just taking still photos and trying to piece it together from there. So we're doing our best. I thought overall yesterday felt a little up and down for Justin. Today, I thought he looked sharper. He took what was there. He made some nice throws over the middle. I'm not worried about the 2 balls that ended up in the defender's hands. So let's go to the other side of the ball. Top defensive player for day 2 for you.
It's kind of hard at defense because, like we talked about earlier, the D line can't do much. I mean, it's like you're kind of limited what you can do there. So it's mostly linebacker, secondary, and I'm going to go Kyler Gordon. Uh, I noticed right away, like yesterday, he was playing the nickel, and when he started off, he was starting at outside corner. It was him and Jalen Johnson with Tavon Young at nickel. Within a few reps, Gordon went to the nickel. So the Bears early on here, 2 straight days, they're showing enough confidence in a rookie to play him in 2 different positions. And like you said, he did get an interception on the day. And I like his energy. He's very active when he's out there playing. And man, if he could play nickel on occasion, play outside, I think it bodes well for this defense.
Yeah, I mean, if he can start being that versatile early, and you have a guy like Jalen Johnson who can just sit in a cornerback spot on the outside, it just gives you so much flexibility. I'm going to go with the other guy, the other rookie, Jaquan Brisker.
That's
That was the play.
perfect.
That
That's
was
good timing when
the
he did this.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That was the play of the day.
Yeah.
That pick that he had, he played perfect technique. He undercut Cole Kmet, cut the route off. Again, I don't think it was a very good ball. It wouldn't have been picked if it was a good ball, right? But it wasn't such an obvious like throw behind him or anything like that. I think it was just a really nice play by Brisker, and he really just played it perfectly. And his timing's good, his instincts are good, and he was covering Cole Kmet, who I got to tell you gave Eddie Jackson all kinds of trouble yesterday.
Yeah.
And so Brisker did a very nice job of carrying that route up, undercutting it, and then taking it to the house. And I can't say that he made 20 plays today because he's a safety, right?
Yeah.
But he made the best play of the day, so he's going to be my top player. But we talked a little bit about this last night. You have a guy like Brisker who can come down in the box. He allows you to maybe run big nickel where you can bring in Dane Cruikshank as a third safety. You've got Kyler Gordon who can slide into the nickel if you want to play another corner, right? I mean, maybe you could play dime packages where you can play with some of these guys. So as offenses continue to evolve and they're going to start doing, we're going to put 2 guys in the slot. We're going to do all this kind of stuff. The Bears are looking like they have the answers. They potentially have the answers here with diverse skill sets in their secondary with their first 2 picks, Ryan Poles' first 2 picks. That's great. I mean, it just justifies exactly what he was trying to do in the second round there.
Kyler Gordon playing some outside, playing some nickel. Jaquan Brisker, I watched him as well a little bit. He lined up, he was up at the box. He was deep. He was kind of all over the place as well. And it was a great interception on his part. Some of this could be that they're used to some of these route combinations they're seeing from the offense. They've been practicing with it all summer, but still he read it. He made the play. He undercut the route. He made a good pick. And I'm excited for both these rookies. The time of the draft, like most Bears fans, like, why are we taking defensive players? Man, if these 2 guys are legitimately going to be this type of guy that we think they're going to be moving forward, that's a heck of initial draft from Ryan Poles.
One of those things where second round guys, a lot of guys liked them, even first round talent into the first round kind of thing. I mean, they play like it. Then you've got two really good guys in the secondary to go along with one of your most talented players anyway, in Jalen Johnson. Hopefully Eddie has a good year as well. I know Eddie's pretty polarizing right now. My tweet yesterday on Eddie Jackson sure riled a lot of people up. So people are still getting fired up about that one. So I don't have much else. But let's closing thought. We're going to be back tomorrow.
We will.
We're probably not going to live stream until later tomorrow night, just because I have to drive all the way back to Iowa. But we'll certainly be doing the same thing tomorrow, going to practice and doing more live stream and more reporting. But any final thoughts on day 2?
No, it was exciting. It's cool to be out there seeing the way the whole crowd is amped up for what's happening there, and starting to see some of the new wrinkles in place we haven't seen the last few years. And I do want to really quick mention rookie Dominic Robinson. Man, he looks like the dude, right? Just from a physical standpoint, you look at him, you're like, man, this guy looks like he's obviously a really good athlete, but you kind of watch the way he moves and the way he carries himself on the field. You kind of see the athletic in him. And, there's a lot of good young players on this roster that, it's going to take some time to develop, but, I'm excited for this youth to see them all grow and, someday make this Chicago Bears team into a perennial playoff contender.
Yeah, it always strikes me just how big some of these guys are.
Yeah.
But last year when we were at camp, and I turned to you and I was like, "Who's this 90? Like this guy looks like a player." And it was Blackson, and it was just like I didn't know who he was, and he just kind of like, oh, he looks like a player. He looks like a guy who's going to make this roster, and sure enough, he was a contributor. And sometimes you just look at a guy and you're like, oh yeah, okay, like from a physical presence standpoint, he looks like he's already there. And I would say I feel the same way about Velus Jones. He looks like he's ready to just step in. And I know from a physical standpoint, he's at his peak. Being where he's at in his age, and I know a lot's been made out of that. But I think that there's maybe some method to Ryan Poles' madness here, and that this guy looks like he's ready to contribute right away, and so there may have been a push to use some of that draft capital for players that can immediately contribute, and we'll figure out the rest of that developmental type stuff later down the line. Velus is going to be part of this offense. You mentioned the jet sweep action earlier. Who's going to run that jet sweep action better than Velus Jones?
He made a few plays today. I do want to mention real quick, Equinemius St. Brown.
Yeah.
He made some nice plays today as well. Big 6'5" wide receiver. I know when the Bears made a trade for N'Keal Henry, a lot of people thought, Harry, he'd be the immediate X, but I think that starting X spot's going to come down to both those guys. And I think St. Brown, he doesn't have the pedigree, but he's a big body guy with some legit 4.4 speed. So he looked good today as well.
Yeah, Harry made a play as well.
Harry did too, yeah.
So start to see these guys maybe make more plays and separate themselves a little bit. I think Pettis had a drop. Dante Pettis had a drop. So
he did.
A little bit of that. But yeah, interesting. Well, I suppose that's it for today. We'll probably cut it off here. Make sure that I'm going to type up camp notes here in a little bit, so I'll have camp notes up on the site. But Lester and I will be tweeting out tomorrow's practice, so follow us on Twitter. I'm at GridironBorn. Lester is at Wiltfong Jr. Listen to some of the podcasts that are out. I know Robert Schmitz has a new one. Listen to our new podcast, Making Monsters with Taylor Dahl. Excellent debut episode there. We're just going to keep firing more and more content in the Windy City Gridiron podcast channel and on the Second City Gridiron YouTube channel. So
we're all over.
We're all over, man. All right. Well, until next time, bear down, everybody.
Nice.
All right. I see EJ was in the chat.
EJ jumped in for a little while. We got a few questions here. Someone asked about Brandon Hyatt asked Kendall Vildor. He said he heard he stunk and everyone burning him today. I didn't really notice Vildor too much. He didn't start today. But as far as Vildor goes, he was in and out. He did run a little bit with the ones here and there, but it's kind of hard to tell because like we talked about, a lot of these guys know the route combinations, or they know what they're going to do. So, did you notice Vildor at all specifically, one way or the other?
No, I really didn't. I didn't. I mean, why do people have to go so negative on the? It's like,
well, we talked about, like, if you're on Twitter, you're watching it. If all it takes is one tweet.
Right.
St. Brown just burned Vildor, and all of a sudden if that's what you see.
Right.
Vildor sucks.
Right.
He may suck. He may have had it bad, but I didn't notice it one way or the other. I thought like we talked about, the defense kind of had the advantage early on. Offense settled in, and they will look crisp as they closed out practice. So, someone else asked about again. Brandon asked about I believe Tavon Young. He started at nickel, so that's good for him. And part of that is maybe because Thomas Graham Jr. is still sidelined, so it's good for the veteran Young to get some reps there because I think he makes this roster.
Yeah. I think he's too good to not make the roster. His problem's always been health. So I think if he can stay healthy, he should be a contributor here, even if he's just, on the squad. I think he's a good enough defensive back that you can't let a guy like that go.
Yeah.
Again, it's really hard. The one-on-one drills they did yesterday was pretty great because you could really kind of isolate. And I know that that's part of what I tweeted out about Cole Kmet versus Eddie Jackson, and they went each other.
Hashtag Swole
Kmet. Hashtag Swole Kmet.
I put it up there for us.
And I know that that kind of caught on and it got negative. I wasn't being negative about Eddie. I was just kind of relaying what happened. I mean, I'm not putting my own opinion about. I like Eddie, so I mean, I'm not trying to dog the guy. But I mean, Vilder getting burnt / what about the wide receiver just making a good route? Like, they're all the Bears guys, right?
They're all Bears.
So like, let's also focus on like the good pieces of this. And it doesn't necessarily need to be, all negative, but what are you going to do?
We got another question about the secondary, Jalen Johnson. Honestly, I didn't see him do too much today, but that's, as a cornerback, that's a good thing.
I don't think he was getting thrown at.
I don't think he was either. I think they're kind of going some other directions. And, during some of the earlier team drills, the plays were kind of extended a little bit, which, in real life, those probably are sacks or throwaways. But, in practice setting, it's the quarterback's, taught to kind of keep play alive, go around. So there were quite a few scrambles, kind of throw it to the back of the end zone and let your guy take a shot at it. So some part of that good coverage has got to be Jalen Johnson in there with the one. So, I think there's a lot of potential for Johnson to become one of the better corners in the game today too.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think he got a lot of work. And then I don't remember watching him in the one-on-one yesterday. Not that he wasn't there, but there was two sides. I was watching more of the near side, so he might have just been lined up on the far side against guys. But again, it's tough. And you're trying, I'm trying to take pictures and tweet stuff out, so I'm missing stuff. Anytime, Simeon was taking reps or Peterman was taking reps today, I was like, I'm not even looking.
That's terrible. How could you disregard such a quality?
I don't know who. Can you tell them apart? If they both wore like blank jerseys, would you be able to tell them apart?
From a physical standpoint, they're very similar looking.
Yeah. I don't. I can't tell you if one throws the ball better than the other. I would think that Simeon might be a little better of a ball thrower, but I can't actually say that.
Well, I mentioned to you at the beginning of practice because, like, when you look at Nathan Peterman as an NFL quarterback, he has been a horrible NFL quarterback, but he keeps getting gigs, right? You watch him, it just shows you the level of quarterback play.
Right.
From a fan's perspective, when he plays, he sucks. We're watching him and he's just throwing dimes in the warm-ups. He's like, everything's right there. He looks the part of an NFL caliber quarterback. It's just, there's levels. It's him, clearly number 3, Simeon, and then of course Justin Fields.
Who was it? Tyler, what was his name? It was like the backup. They're the third string guy forever, and they just kept like putting him in the practice squad. Tyler Bray.
Yeah.
And like, he didn't even throw the ball that well, right? These guys at least seemed to
I didn't
like
understand
he looked the part.
Yeah.
He looked like a quarterback, but these guys actually can throw the ball. So that's pretty useful. And then another thing I just mentioned here, it's not worth like on the podcast, but we talked about how there's no second punter.
Yeah.
And in the past, you'd always carry 2 punters because one of those guys, sometimes there'd be a legit competition, but one of those guys would just be a camp leg. And I was telling you about how I had a buddy went to Iowa State and he got a call up. It was basically like a call to come be a camp leg for the Lions. And they don't do that anymore because if they need to throw a bunch of punts in the air, they actually just use a jugs machine. And so they keep that, they take that roster spot and they use it somewhere else. And the same thing with kickers. Like you don't see a camp leg kicker because they'll just use one of the jug machines if they don't want to overwork Santos or overwork Gill. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I hadn't put that together until I just saw those big jugs machines just being worked on the special teams drills. And no one works harder than Patrick Scales at practice.
Yeah.
Let's just put that out there. Just the amount of work that he's putting in on his game. These 3 guys, these poor guys, they just have to be out there for practice.
And living the life, man. That's a good gig. A specialist in the NFL, man.
They might do 20 minutes of work. Yeah. It's kind of amazing.
Did we notice Robert Quinn? We got a question from Julie Berckes here. Asking
Berckes.
Robert
you don't
Quinn.
even know how to say my last name.
Oh man, it's
so
the English language is like a struggle for me sometimes.
So Quinn, saw him yesterday. I saw him physically yesterday. Yeah. Did you see him? I didn't see him today.
I saw him today. I just, again, it's the defensive line is tough because
it's tough. Yeah.
They can't do much. Like if they do get in there, of course they can't touch the quarterback. They're allowed to make a play and everyone thinks the offense does great. And so that's, we have a comment from Agent Mole to said they signed Peterman to keep the scout team offense unpredictable.
Well, was it Peterman? I think it was Peterman. I
think it was Simeon who threw that interception. Yeah.
So they had a drill at the end where they set up throwing an purposely throwing an
Yeah, on
interception so
purpose.
that the defense could have a pick six and then practice a celebration, which
Yeah.
was a bowling
Bowling.
bowling pin action. And then did the same thing where they let the offense, which was not as fun. They let I think
Jatir Carter.
Carter
Yeah.
spike the ball. But that was kind of interesting. Like, all right, you guys get your celebration at the end of practice. So we'll set this up. So imagine being the quarterback, like, all right, you have to just throw a pick here.
Well, like there was no receiver in the play. He just kind of
no. It was just this.
Eddie Jackson.
Yeah.
That was a cool, neat drill because look, you always hear about part of setting goals is you want to visualize, right? You hear that all the time. Visualize what you want, and maybe this is just part of the new philosophy. Look, let's, instead of visualizing us getting a pick six, scoring a touchdown, let's do it. And instead of visualizing us having a nice run where I can take the ball and give it to a lineman and spike it, let's just do it. And I think that was a really neat way to end practice.
Brandon asked about Eddie Jackson returning punts.
Not today, I don't think. It was a couple other guys.
We didn't see a big punt session today, though. If it happened, it was on the opposite
for
side
today.
Of the field,
I think they were more working the gunners. Mm-hmm. So they had a punt returner back there. He would just catch it. He didn't really do it. He just kind of stood there. But I actually tweeted out who I saw in that punt return group, and Eddie Jackson was not among them. It was all offensive players.
It was all blue shirts.
Yep.
Okay. So, all right. Well, I think that'll do it for day 2. Excited for day 3, and we'll just go from there. So thanks for joining us, everybody. Really appreciate it. If you have not yet, please subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to get to 1,000. Lester's got some stuff. He's let me know what was in there. It'll be worth your while to be in that drawing. So please sub for us and get us to that mark, and we'll stop asking you.
Yeah.
So, all right. Thanks, everybody. We'll end it here.